And then,
It's because that's following.
What do you guys have, 6 to 10?
staff in regards to a proposal related to community paramedicine and the possibility, the prospects of using opioid settlement funds to fund part of that program. So we've got many things to get going with, but we also have Joe Winston with us as well from Net Recovery as well. So like we started all our meetings, I'd like to ask you all to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Wallace, will you lead us this morning?
Yes, let's pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jeff and Joe, good morning. Appreciate you all being with us. Let's make sure we can hear you all.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. If you all, I'll give just, you all presented before and we're all aware of the net device and what's going on. But since your last presentation, if you could give us an update of, the feedback you received from the state commission and then where you're at right now and, what prospects you all have with any other county governments as well related to the sober study as well. So I'll turn it over to you all, and we appreciate your time.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, guys. I know y'all probably have a lot to cover this morning. I don't want to drone on, so I'll be as efficient as possible. My name is Jeff Lott with Net Recovery. I'm Communications Director here, and I want to start off a little backwards from most people. I'm going to go straight to the ask, let you know why we're here, what we desire from you, and then we'll get into a little more detail about some of the questions that the judge asked. So we're here to request grant funds from your opioid settlement money in the amounts of $66,000 this year, $22,000 next year, and $22,000 in 2025. That is a total of $110,000 over 3 years, and that would be for 34 spots of treatment. 34 persons from your county, could be your friends, your family, could be people who are standing before a judge with drug charges. That would be for them to get treated. If you're not good at math, that comes out to about $3,200 per person. The actual dollars spent per person on this project will be about $10,000. So why the difference? Well, as alluded to earlier by the judge, we petitioned the state for grant funds to basically subsidize the cost of this project to the counties. The state said no. While we agree that this is a legitimate use of funds, we aren't going to be using our grant money on this project at this time. And they subsequently announced an intention to spend no less than $42 million developing yet another drug. So that seems to be the direction the state's moving. God bless them and their efforts. I hope they're successful, but that's just not where our head's at and our goals are. We're seeking to help people be drug-free without the use of more drugs. So we were faced with a tough decision. We were expecting the state to subsidize over 2/3 of the cost of this project so that we could then go to the counties with what we feel is a very reasonable request per person for treatment. And that option was no longer there. So we had to decide, are we going to drop the project? Are we going to try to raise up money from somewhere else? Are we going to charge the counties more money, get more counties? What are we going to do? We decided, mainly at the thinking of the other gentleman on the call with me, our CEO, Joe Winston, that this project's too important to scrap, and the company itself is going to subsidize or eat the cost of what the state was going to cover. Since this is in the context of a study, we're not allowed to make any profit. The most we can do is recover 100% of our costs. And in fact, in this case, we're not even doing that. We're going to recover less than 1/3 of the cost from counties. But we feel it's an important project. We want the county opioid settlement money to go as far as it can, and so we feel like that's appropriate and a good thing for us to do. As far as what the purpose of the study is, just a recap. If a person today is diagnosed with opioid use disorder, which is the fancy way of saying they're a drug addict, they really have one option, and that's to trade one drug for another. Our goal is to give people a second option, and that is to be truly drug-free. The drugs work in the sense that they keep people alive. The data shows that, and we think that's a good thing. We're not against Suboxone or methadone because they do keep people alive. However, we want to raise the bar and say, is there a solution out there that doesn't just keep people alive, but is there a solution that can give people their lives back? And that's what we're hoping to prove with this study. We're taking 500 people who have been diagnosed with opioid use disorder. We're going to treat them with our device, and then we're going to follow them for a year. There's a state organization called KY Stat that tracks all kinds of demographic and social data for the state of Kentucky to help policymakers. They have agreed to basically match the 500 people we treat with people who also struggle with opioid use disorder, but who we won't ever see or touch or anything. There'll just be a number, basically. But the state is going to give us data on them and on this data. And so what that would look like would say if you treat a male in his 30s who's white, then they would find a male in his 30s who's white, and we would compare the two, how they do, and do they stay out of jail? Do they engage in educational services? Do they stay employed? What's their income like? Does it go up? Does it go down? Do they move around a lot? Are they getting evicted? Those types of things. And so what we hope to show is that people who are treated with this device don't just stay alive, their life actually gets better. They return to society. They're staying out of jail. They're keeping a job. They're not moving around from their moms to their cousins to their girlfriend's mom's cousin, right? So that's really what we're doing here. We made the decision to proceed with the company itself subsidizing just a few weeks ago, and so we started reaching back out to counties to inform them of that and say, hey, we're ready to start signing counties up because we want to start this project at the very end of this year. So far, we've had 2 counties signed and sealed. That would be Meade and Bullitt County. We've had 2 more counties who basically verbally committed to join us and requested the paperwork to sign. We've not gotten it back yet, but I've been talking to them. They need to do their official vote first. That's Shelby and Oldham County. Eulenburg, Whitley, Harlan County out east, we've been speaking to those judges. They're all very positive, and they want to put it to a vote within the next 2 court sessions, and it's looking like they're going to join us also. There are other counties we're talking to that I would put in a category similar to Scott County, which is, I think they're interested, but they just maybe want more time or they have more questions or concerns to direct to us. That's about the end of my spiel. So the reason I have our CEO, Joe Winston, on, I did the easy part. Now he's here to field all your difficult questions.
Jeff and Joe, to start with, give us a picture of what the, how do you identify and the onboarding process of individuals that might, want to participate in the study? I know what you've shared in the past, they have to be in active addiction. Can you expand on that a little bit and give us a picture of what, if they do elect to enter into the study, what's that actual treatment timeline, and how long does it take, that kind of information?
I'll take that, Jeff. It's okay. Are you able to hear me? Okay. So we're hiring staff who will handle the topic you just asked. There are a person who will be assigned to Scott County. That person would have a number that was available to anybody who would participate, an email address that makes them available to anybody in Scott County. And if you reach out to this person, what they would do is very quickly make sure that you are eligible. And as an example, are you actually taking opiates, or perhaps are you taking methamphetamines only? If you were taking opiates and methamphetamines, you would still be eligible for the study. What they would then do is immediately work with you to reach out to Isaiah House to ensure that they had a spot and to find timing, and often, frankly, to find funding for a treatment at Isaiah House. Isaiah House is very good at this. They would then track you going into Isaiah House, and you would have, when you arrive at Isaiah House, the personal opportunity to say, yes, I want to participate, or no, I don't. And I will say that piece often folks don't talk about, but it's very important that we give individuals agency, we give them the right to be in or not be in themselves personally without any kind of influence. If they were to get to Isaiah House and say, no, I don't want to be in the study, that's okay. They'll still get treatment. They'll still be in Isaiah House. The treatment itself is short. It's about typically 5 days. It could be as short as 2. It could be as long as 7. It's never more than 7. When the person is done their MT treatment, they have a choice again. They can stay for the remainder of their 28 days at Isaiah House, and they would just do that, or they could come back to Scott County or go to wherever they wish to go. From the moment the person engages with our staff, we will start working with them to define their view of what they want to do when they leave. We leave the door open for them to change their mind. And frankly, it's not uncommon for a person who is under the influence of opiates to have one set of goals, and then when they're free of opiates, 5 days later, to have a different set of goals. And so we plan with them on both sides of the event. We also work very closely with Isaiah House. Isaiah House has a staff that helps people decide what they're going to do and supports them in the next path. So if I were to come back up to the top here, we put a point person in place for the county. Anybody can contact them by a number of means, including social media, and come into the study. If they just showed up at Isaiah House, they never contacted us at all, and they were from Scott County, we would allow them to participate. So we can tell what county the person is from when they start treatment. And every person walking in the door at Isaiah House who is taking opiates, we'll check what county they're from. And if they're from Scott County, we'll ask them, hey, this is what we're doing, do you want to participate?
Okay.
Did I answer your question?
100%. Could you share with us in the next day or two, like you have to have a brochure, a white paper, releases that, you explain to these individuals about what the net device is and about what the hopeful outcomes are, and then the the stats from your outcomes to this point. Could you share that with us electronically via email in the next couple days, just for us to look at?
It's a little more complicated, but Judge, I'll tell you what I can do. First of all, there is an IRB that we're selecting, an institutional review board, whose only job is to protect the people who go into the study. And they are required by law to review any piece of information, any piece of paper, any email that we give to a person who would participate. So we're in the process of preparing those. We prepared them once before for the study, which, as you know, today is Friday. Today is the last day of the previous study. That's what's outstanding. So we have some pieces of material that we gave people before. I could certainly make those available to you to see. Those have been approved by the IRB. The material for this next study won't be available until August. We're intending at the end of August to reach out to the IRB with our next set of data for the coming study, and they would then have to approve that. And again, just by law, I can't do it until they put their stamp on it. They literally put a stamp on it. So I'm very happy to send you what we have today for the current study, if that's helpful.
No, that'd be helpful.
I'm happy once, and I'll send you the IRB material when they respond. The second thing would be the FDA is pretty clear that we can't make claims about either safety or efficacy until we're FDA approved. And so where are we in that process? I'm actually meeting with the FDA on the 9th of August. We, as I just told you, have our last person going through the study today. So we don't break the blind until my next meeting with the FDA, something like the 9th of August. The moment we break that blind, I'm able to come to you and tell you what our statistics were, as long as I don't do this in a fashion that becomes marketing or promotion. So I am able to share that in certain circumstances with the court. I will be very happy to do that. We haven't broken the blind, and we won't for another 30 days or so. But again, I'd be very happy to share that data with the court. What I can say is that we have run certain studies in Kentucky. We treated maybe 550 people so far in Kentucky. And in those studies, they were not blinded. There was no control group. But in those studies, we had over 80% of people were successful in the studies. And so, although we can't claim that our product is successful yet until we've done a blinded study, what we know is that there are hundreds of people in Kentucky today who have come back through the process and have received our oral fluid or urine drug tests and were drug-free a substantial period of time after treatment.
Thank you. What questions does anyone else have for Joe or Jeff?
I got a question for Michelle or you. The total amount of money that we have in the opioid settlement?
$292,000 as we speak, and I have a spreadsheet right here. Over the next, this is just from one settlement.
Yeah.
We anticipate a second settlement from Walgreens, those pharmacies and such. The information that's been shared with me is the funds from the second settlement will mirror the first settlement. So if we're looking right now at Scott County, 2022, it's $292,543. Over the course of the next up through 2038, from this settlement, we are anticipating $1.44 million. And this comes annually through an annual payment. Next year's annual payment will be $50,000, then it goes to $63.63, then it goes to $73.73, then it goes to $84.94, $94. So there's a, it's a phased out settlement. But the second settlement, and Cam and I, we get almost bombarded and covered up with emails from the second settlement attorneys. I mean, would you like to comment?
They're working on it. So when that'll come, I'm not sure.
But it's, I anticipate that to be sooner than later. I would say within the next 3 to 6 months, from what I've read.
So in my mind, the way it's working is I'm looking now at the possibility of how we use that money. I know there's restrictions on the opioid settlement money, and maybe Michelle, if you need to jump in, but you can use it for law enforcement as long as it has to do like DARE or prevention.
Everything that I've read, and I will try to get, white paper to share with you, but everything that I've read, it has to be directly related to addressing the opioid epidemic, and whether it be with education, counseling, but it has to be directly related to opioid, addiction.
All right, so if we get away from law enforcement, could it be used for some EMS function?
Well,
that type? I know.
Next up, what Chris is going to speak about and his team is, could we consider using funds to fund a community paramedicine position that did maybe not 100% of the position, but addressed follow-ups with individuals that have OD'd and had calls, and Chris is going to talk about that next. And Jeff and Joe, you all are welcome to stay on and listen to that presentation as well. I've been attending, Chris has been attending, Cam's been as well. There's a community coalition group that I've been meeting with. Karen Butcher has helped bring that together. The number one focus that's been discussed and worked on is becoming a recovery-ready community. And that's been a task that's been going on. But there's been discussion about how do we, get feedback from our community and stakeholders on how to effectively use these dollars. We had a presentation from individuals from Boyle County, from their ASAP, and one of the conversation lines was, really focusing on how do we address this issue with the younger generation, high school, even younger. And one of the options that was discussed, and that we've discussed before, is, and I've talked with Billy Parker, is funding 2 social worker positions that would work at the high schools and middle schools to work with individuals, students who has family members in addiction, or they are dealing with addiction themselves. So Superintendent Parker feels like that would be, and Billy's been at these meetings, feels like that would be an effective use of the monies. And the feedback from that meeting, we have people from our from the meeting as well. The feedback from that meeting was that there was a general support there for that type of use as well. So does that answer your questions?
Yeah, I'm just trying to, I know we're getting lots of requests, and I'm trying to filter all through it to what we're facing.
Does anyone from the audience or any of our guests have questions for Joe or Jeff?
I have one question for Joe and Jeff. Why like an open label study? Like if you've already done a double-blind, like random control trial, what do you all hope to glean from a open label, especially where you don't even control the control group?
The study we're proposing is not open label in the fashion that you described. There actually is a control group. So
Hey, Joe. Sorry, let me jump in here. I think because we referenced that we've treated hundreds of people open label, I think he's wondering why did we do that if we have a blinded study? And the answer is timeline. Those were all done in the past.
Does that answer your question, Ryan?
Yeah.
To be more detailed, we started doing those in 2006 and have done them for the 550 people have been treated over the last 10 or 15 years in different counties in Kentucky. The double-blinded controlled trial is the latest one that we did. We've kind of been, researching the device, and we finally felt like last year we're ready to go big time with this thing, and so that's why we conducted the double-blind controlled trial, because we were ready, if that makes sense. So we just did that, just finishing up right now.
So if I could fill in, to me there were 3 phases. The first phase is, do we think this thing works? And as Jeff said, we treated open label hundreds of people in Kentucky. The second question is, when we prove that it works to the FDA as a device? That's the double-blind trial that we have just brought to conclusion, and we're going to submit that information to the FDA. The third question Jeff raised earlier is, does this do something other than just stop people from dying? Does this actually cause people to return to normal life? That's the study we're doing now that we're proposing to you, and it is a controlled trial. Controlled with 500 people with OUD who do not receive MDT.
Thank you. Tell us, making a commitment to net recovery over the next 3 years, you have to ask the question about, is there any question or information that you could share about the strength or the financial standing of net recovery? Are you all, physically strong and will be able to carry out this 3-year commitment?
We're a small company. We're not a large pharmaceutical. Frankly, we're funded today from friends and family and from personal funds. And if you've watched the movie, you'll know that on at least one occasion I mortgaged my house to put us in this situation. So do we feel like we can conduct this study? Yes, but we can't do it unless a certain number of counties believe in what we're trying to do. And so what we're doing today is seeing if we can gather sufficient counties for us to start. That number of counties we said before was about 12. We would like to bring in more counties than that, but if we bring in about 12 counties, we will start, and we're in a position to cover the loss of funds that we had hoped to receive from the city.
Okay, that helps me. The magic number is you need 12 counties. Any other questions? If not, we'll move on, and appreciate your all's time, and I will share with the court whatever documents you share with me, and then we'll go from there.
Thank you very much.
No, thank you, and let me say this. Thank you for your efforts to try to impact individuals that are struggling, and appreciate that very, very much. Chris, we'll turn it straight over to you.
Judge, magistrates, good morning. Thanks for the opportunity to present this to us. As Judge Covington alluded, we have been participating in this coalition. Last week we had the opportunity to hear from Boyle County, who is currently using some of their opioid settlement funds to fund a community paramedicine program. So we hope to be able to do that as well. I know the last time we presented this, we were looking to partner with the hospital. That has changed. So that partnership didn't work out. So we have kind of refocused our vision of this program. Georgetown PD has a victim advocates program where they will actually go to the residents of folks that have suffered an overdose and follow up with them within a day or two of that overdose and try to offer them help and let them know what resources are available in the community. They have police officers and social workers as part of that team. What they're missing is a healthcare component. So we want to insert our community paramedic into that team to be able to go out with them and conduct these follow-ups and to do home safety inspections while we're there in the house. We can look at what their living conditions are like. We can do medicine reconciliation and make sure if they have medicines, they're using them appropriately. So that's kind of our focus now. We hope to be able to access some of these opioid settlement dollars to be able to do that. But I'd rather spend the time just answering questions that you guys may have about the position or the program itself.
I shared the email.
Did you?
Yes,
Okay.
I shared that with everyone.
Thank you.
I definitely feel like, does Lexington use their community paramedicine in a similar fashion for follow-ups?
They did, and we've had meetings with those folks, and it's made a huge impact in their community. They're able to go out, immediately to these calls. And I guess where we're at, when we respond to an overdose is not the best time for a teachable moment. The folks are usually angry with us that we've interrupted their high, so they don't want to really hear anything we have to say or listen to what resources are available. So the ability to follow up after the fact is the best opportunity to do that. And that's what Lexington expressed to us that they do. They just exactly what I explained, they insert their community paramedic into a team of social workers and law enforcement that go out to the residents and follow up these individuals and provide any health care that may be needed at the time.
Hey, Chris, on that team, because I've met with him one time. So there's an advocate. Now, who's funding the advocate? Is that a state advocate type of person, or is that being paid for the opioid?
GPD just recently, at this last meeting, told us that they are now hiring Corey as a full-time police department, so it'd be funded by the city.
Oh, well, I do want to rewind. The city is using some, I believe, some opioid funds for that. No, just for that one position.
Yes, just for Corey's position.
I thought the officers were getting paid kind of some, funded out of that a little bit too, maybe.
I can double check with Devin.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
What do you think the financial?
The officers are too.
It might be
two of them, right?
I think one of them's on a grant. I don't know if both of them are.
Okay.
Okay.
What do you think how much would this community paramedicine cost?
Well, we put the program in our budget. I think the annual salary was $65,000. And we had other requests in that budget, but we were able to scale that back to where that's all we need at this point is just salary money.
So
We have the other resources already.
of that salary, would you predict that the workload committed to overdose follow-up and such, 50% of that workload?
Yeah, that's what we
So
figured.
what would the other 50% of that community paramedicine be doing?
So, as we talked about before, our high utilizers are folks that we refer to as frequent flyers. It's probably not the best PC term, but that tie up our resources. We've had one individual that called within a 6-month period, had called 911 about 60 or 70 times, just tying up resources. We're out there on scene for hours at a time, but we would have somebody that would actually go out and check on them, see if they had needs. Maybe they just want some company for a time, or maybe they need prescriptions refilled, whatever it is. So that would reduce our call volume and free up our resources. And then another big portion of that would be our folks that don't have access to health care, whether that be insurance, transportation, whatever the reason be. We would visit those folks. Some of our outlying communities. I know, Chad, we've talked before about Zion Hill. We would have someone dedicated to going out and checking on those folks to see what their needs are. And it may not be healthcare. It may be if they need a social worker, or maybe they need to talk to, APS or somebody. So we would kind of just be the network to connect all those loose ends and get those folks the resources they need.
So possibly, a big part of it would be trying to cut down the amount of calls you're getting by trying to be proactive with that person
Yes.
half the time.
Yeah, yeah.
And the other half the time they're working with this other group of people that are doing it.
Correct, yes.
I had a question, and I'm gonna put you on the spot here.
Sure, yeah.
because How many, I know you've given us the amount of overdose deaths that we've had and how that's decreased in the county over the last few years. How many overdoses do we have on an annual basis?
So that number has been on a steady decline, right? I think last year, and I don't have that information in front of me, Chad, but last year we were probably just shy of 100 or so overdoses, maybe 100, over 100, I'm not sure. But this year, we have seen a spike. We've already had more overdose fatalities this year than we did last year, and we're only in July, based on a calendar
You
year.
said fatalities, not, you mean overdoses, just overdose reports, or
Overdose
fatalities?
fatalities. Yeah, and last month, we had 44, which is the highest number of overdoses we've had in our county in the last 3 years since we've been tracking that number. So we've definitely seen a spike this year.
Of those 44 calls, I'm sure several of them are repeat.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think what you're getting at is, could we put a number to, how many individuals are we looking at there? Right. And maybe if you could.
But I think you were also saying, like, I know at one point we were like, everybody was kind of happy that overdose deaths were down, but I bet our number of overdose activities wasn't really down.
Right, correct.
Narcan,
the availability of Narcan and all
and
that.
part of this program too, and I haven't mentioned this yet, is to initiate a Narcan leave behind program, where we actually, when we respond to an overdose, we're leaving Narcan on scene with the family, the friends, the individual themselves, so they have access to that, because typically they overdose again.
Why do you think they're spiking now?
I don't know. Yeah, that's a good question, Cam. We attributed a lot of it before to COVID and everybody having to isolate and not getting out now, but we're kind of past that.
And also a $1,200 check.
Yes, yeah. So there were several factors, and I'm not sure. Yeah, I really don't have an answer for that. But the numbers are increasing for sure.
Any other questions? Any other comments from anyone or guests? Chris?
Well, I guess just for clarification, so you have it in your budget.
Correct.
And so.
We put it in the budget. We were in discussions with leadership at our hospital. We were hopeful for a partnership in support, capital support.
Right.
Don't believe that's going to be a reality. So Chris has pivoted to could other funds from the opioid settlement be used. Before, we were really focusing on cardiac follow-up.
Correct.
Now, we'd be focusing on overdose follow-up and those other individuals that are high users and trying to free up resources and not make as many runs to those high users.
So how much are we asking for from the opioid? Or the full salary or?
No, probably like 50%.
Yeah.
You know, you estimated 65,000. Jeff would have to help us, and Kara would have to help us with, you know, what's our total number on benefits and all that other.
Right.
With the vehicle, we worked that situation out,
Yes.
I believe, yeah.
That was another question, yeah.
Yep, that's all worked out.
Are these billable runs or no? Like, can you bill for this like, can you try to recoup some of that salary? No, is it not billable?
So we cannot bill currently, Ryan, unless we transport. So this would be a situation where if the community paramedic went out and they determined somebody needed transport, then yes, we would treat that like any other call we make, and we would bill for that. But these visits and the follow-up with the opioid folks would not be billable. Correct.
Any other questions? Chris is standing up here. I'm going to move quickly next to the record service, but I have shared the ALS 360 documentation and agreement. Cam's reviewed that. We've got it in the budget. We've had presentations. It's just, you know, approving the formal agreement. You know, that's a long piece of agreement, but, you know, they have gone over that ad nauseum about the equipment included. You know, the terms of the agreement has been laid out. What question, does anyone have any questions before we come to you next Friday for formal approval of that agreement?
I've just asked Chris, is there anything you'd like to see added or taken away that's not there currently?
To the agreement itself?
Yeah.
No, Kelly, I think we've included, I mean, it's every piece of equipment we have that is Stryker. So it's all in there. We would get brand new, as soon as we sign that agreement, they'll order the brand new equipment, and then it'd be replaceable within that 10-year period at least once, or anytime they upgrade. So if they come out with a version 2.0 that's better than what we have, we would get that as well. So.
Did y'all find out what happens at the end of 10 years? Like what the buyback is? Because at the end of 10 years, we have no equipment.
Yeah, so we can re-up the contract and enter in for another length of time, or we can just keep the equipment we have, and what we paid on it, we would own it.
Oh, so we do own it at the end of the 10 years?
Yep.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
So
Appreciate it.
now I'll turn it over to Cam, and Cam worked and met a few times with Lieutenant Johnson and discussed this record service ordinance update. Also met with Mike Hennigan. You know, Mike with EMA is quite frequently dealing with record services as well. So
Yeah.
I'll turn it over to Cam.
If you guys want to
And
come
then,
up to the podium,
yeah.
if you want to chime in.
Yes.
Uh,
Appreciate your all's work on this as well, very much.
Basically, everybody, the sheriff's office had reached out to me a few times specifically, and you guys chime in if there's more to it, because I'm sure there is. But they were having some issues with some record services trying to collect fees from the sheriff's office when they would, you know, call, and the record service would do a tow and the vehicle owner didn't pay. They would want the sheriff's office to pay a bill. And I think recently they got a bill for $2,300 or some large amount. So that caused us to, in trying to address that problem, that caused us to sort of review the existing ordinance. And so one of the things that seemed to be needed is to put more specific language that in the ordinance that, you know, the fees owed are owed by the vehicle owners, not the sheriff's office, and that if you try to collect those fees from the sheriff's office, you could be subject to be removed from the list. We've also addressed a number of other things. One of the things is to their benefit, which is to raise, so the ordinance that we have now is 10 years old, and it caps what they can charge for certain services. So we've raised those amounts to be, you know, consistent with inflation, I guess. And then talked to Mike Hennigan, and he's having an issue. He expressed a bunch of issues with, you know, just concern about response times, that if we call the record service they need to answer the phone. They need to come to, both agencies said they need to come to all kinds of calls, and they don't need to pick and choose if it's a fatal or non-fatal. And also, they need to respond quickly. So like a normal wrecker service needs to be there within 30 minutes. We said if it's a heavy wrecker for a semi-trailer truck or something, they need to be there within an hour. And if there's a extraordinary event like a severe weather or something, and we don't have a heavy wrecker service available on our list, you need to be able to go outside the list and call. And please chime in if there's other stuff. But those were the main things we tried to address in amending the ordinance.
Correct. You want to go?
Okay.
Yeah.
So what, like Cam was saying, we got a big bill. So basically, I don't know, mostly I'm sure you know, we have a fatal lot. So that's evidence, right? If it's a criminal charge. So we have to keep these cars because the defense has the right to examine them, so on and so on. So how we've done it in the years past, they tow it to our lot and they bill us. We paid it, and then, I don't know, 5, 6 years ago, I'm like, do we ever get our money back? No one knew that answer. Like when the vehicles are finished, right? So what I started doing is keeping a list of every tow bill that we got. Then once the vehicle's finished, I either deemed it not criminal or the case was adjudicated, we would call the original tow company, come back, or not the tow company, insurance company, come get your vehicle, and I would charge them the original tow bill. So we kind of recouped our money that way. Well, every once in a while, if somebody's got liability only, nobody's picking that vehicle up. Or insurance companies just simply lose interest. Nobody's picking that vehicle up. So it's obviously you all do not budget the sheriff's office for tow bills. So the sheriff was like, we need to address this. So what I did, I went around to all the tow companies and made a list of saying basically, if you tow to our fatal lot or crime scene lot, to be on our list, you're just gonna have to, you're not charging us. You can charge the insurance. If they pay you, they pay you. You can charge the owner. If they pay you, they pay you. But you're not sending us a bill anymore. It's just part of being on the call rotation, right? They're still making money by being on rotation. Well, and like Cam said, and that also looked at the ordinance. It was 10 years old. And gas is higher, insurance higher. These trucks are double what they were costing 10 years ago. So in fairness, I said, well, let's look at the rates. So while I was breaking bad news, I also asked them what they feel like a fair rate would be. As you can imagine, it was from here to here. So basically what I did, I come up with what I felt was fair by talking to them all, and I believe Cam has all the rates. What we were originally doing is if it's an in-town tow, meaning if we call for a wreck or whatever, they could only charge $90. Well, I said, that's 10 years old, let's up it to 120. Then we also capped their storage fees per day. I think it was $30 and $35 in if it required indoor. So I was like, let's just do a flat 50. Who cares if it's indoor or
Jeremy,
outdoor?
can I interrupt you there?
Yes.
So in section 5, the storage fee says $50, but does it need to have per day?
I believe if you read a section down, I read it. I think it says per day.
Okay.
It down there somewhere else.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that was max.
If I don't know if it's like
I can certainly make that more clear.
Just so it's clear.
Yeah, I believe it's in like, I
Well,
don't know,
I think-
19 or 20, something like that, I believe.
I will put per day on that there.
Yeah. Then also the tow miles, our old wording was $2 per mile once they left the county line to and from. Well, talking to all the tow companies, they call it a tow mile. So from the time they hook it up to the time they get back into the city limits, we were allowing them to charge $4 a mile, tow miles. And I said, let's, up at $1. So basically, if they go 10 miles outside the city limits, from the time they hook it up to the time they hit the county line, they can charge $5 a mile. But once they're, or not the county line, city. Now, once they're back in the city, they can no longer charge mileage. So like I said, to be on a rotation, I think it's fair. We're not saying they can't get paid for their vehicles they're towing to our lot. We're just telling you, we're not paying it. It's part of doing business. If you lose $100 on that tow, you lose $100. You're gonna make a lot more money in the long haul, right? So
I really appreciate you going out and talking to the tow companies.
Absolutely.
And getting their feedback. The right
Instead
thing
of
to
just
do. And
exactly. And
Yeah.
I had to push back from one. Everybody else was like, I'm making money being on y'all's list. I mean, one guy gave me pushback. He said, well, I'm not going to tell him. I said, well, you'll probably be removed from our list. But obviously, we've not removed him. We'll give him the chance. We'll talk to him, so.
I have a question. So, understand if the wreck's inside the city limits, they can charge 120. But if it's out in the, yeah, if it's out in the county, they only get $5 a mile. So if it's like a mile out of town, would they only get $10 instead of, like, it doesn't say that they get the 120 plus the mileage.
Well, I think it's implied. So they would get you get a $120 hookup fee, a max. Then they get a mileage.
So 120 plus $5 a mile on the mileage for tows outside city limits.
Yes.
Okay, because that's nowhere in here. That's what I was trying to wrap my head around.
I mean, I think the tow company's always done that, and maybe we need to look at the wording. I just knew what I was reading, you know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, we allow them to do up to $120 hookup / tow fee, then $5 a mile outside the city limits.
Yeah, I'll clarify that, Ryan.
Why did we do the city limits and not the whole county?
That was written 10 years ago. You remember, Sheriff?
No, and I was just thinking the same thing, Rob. Because primarily, we're gonna be working things in the county, not that we don't in the city, but well, actually, we do work in the city. Team, so.
Is that like for their trouble to go far out or something?
Working on that.
Yeah, I know.
Make it a flat number.
I know this was written in conjunction with the city 10 years ago. I believe Chief Ballston and the sheriff were in on it. I'm sure Cam and some other guys were in on it also. So I don't know, like you said, I guess for the tow companies, most of them are based out of the city, really. You know, so it's a big difference going to North Dividing Ridge and picking up a vehicle than running to Walmart picking up a vehicle. So I guess that was our way of saying, we're paying you for your time too a little bit.
I mean, I kind of understand that, but to me, we ought to do the whole county, not just the city, because we do have 3 different cities. So unless it says Georgetown specifically, somebody can look at it a different way.
I can't remember if it said the city, Georgetown city limits. or-
Yes, within city of Georgetown limits.
Okay.
That's just my opinion.
Yeah, it was written 10 years ago, that's how it was, and like I said, I just think we're giving them a little bit for their time going, you know, like I said, it's a big difference going northeast county line or, you know, Dryden versus running to Walmart picking up a vehicle.
When we take, when the wreckers take our vehicles to the lot where you use them for evidence,
Mhm.
and you all basically, you call the insurance company and they'll come pick them up if they won't. We don't charge, the sheriff's office doesn't charge for a daily storage
We do not.
of that.
No,
Okay.
I believe, actually, I've been asked by several insurance companies why we do not, but we're just not in the business of making money off of someone's, you know.
I get it.
I mean, how many days are these staying at?
Sometimes years.
Really?
Yeah, just because, I mean, the court system is not a quick,
Sure.
you know,
And then
process.
Going back and forth.
You have the other
lawyers.
too, if it's not a criminal case, a lot of times it goes to civil litigation.
Yeah.
So.
Takes forever.
But it's like a part-time job, like shuffling all those around. You got to get record company to come help shuffle.
Yes, we have to, you know, like, we do from time, like Judge said, we have to move them around from time to time to do evidence stuff or get rid of them. But like, I'll call a tow company and he'll come move the vehicles around for me if we're doing like a training or need to do some evidence purposes on the vehicle. They never charge us, so that's why I always call them. But,
So we store the vehicle in our secure lot?
correct.
So then what's the storage, like, why is the record company charging a storage fee if it's on our lot?
Okay, that storage fee is if we call you for like, you work just a minor wreck, like you're fine, but your car's not fine, right? That's if they tow it to their lot.
They're charging the person.
That's the most they can charge if they tow it to their lot.
Okay.
But one thing, I was talking to the sheriff this morning, you have the choice, if you want to tow it to your house, you can have them towed to your house and you don't have to do that. Now, if it's initiated by the sheriff's office or the Georgetown PD, they generally let them go take them to their lots. But if you can function and tell them, you can say, take it to my house, and you don't have to pay money.
Mike, you want to mention anything that you've experienced and addressed?
Well, for the last nine or 10 months, we've had issues with the tow companies either refusing calls or not answering the phone at all. We had a couple special circumstances, December 23rd, the flash freeze, where big wreckers were 11-hour wait, small wreckers could be up to 2 days, because we had wrecker companies just call our dispatch center and say, we're going to be off the phone for the next 8 hours or 16 hours, don't call us. And I understand special circumstances. If you only got 2 trucks and 2 guys, somebody's got to go to sleep. But you've got to keep the county moving. And then the same thing with the heavy wreckers. If we have a truck that gets into a crash and is able to slide to the side of the road, and just needing some sort of service, they have the option of using their own wrecker company. But we've had some arguments with trucking company owners saying, we've got a contract with, Joe's, whatever, and, we got somebody coming in from Indianapolis to pick up this truck. If you're blocking a lane of traffic, whether it be on the bypass or on the interstate, we have the option to call our own company that will be here within 60 minutes and get the road reopened. And then it's up to the owner of the company to work with our wreckers for where they want it towed to, what services they want. But, we needed to have that option, or have the language in there saying that we choose whether or not we call a wrecker, based on what the effect in the county.
About 20 years ago, the city looked at like bidding out the wrecker services, and we just go with one bidder and the wreckers, and the reality of it is there's not enough wreckers.
Yeah.
And so we had to accommodate all the different businesses so that we can make
That's
things
why the
function.
rotation came about.
Yeah, and I have one thing I believe Mike left out, or if you said it, I'm sorry. What he's also talking about in these bad weathers, like we have, 5 record service rotation, is basically give us the ability to go off that list in circumstances that.
So how many of those heavy wreckers are in Scott County? You were saying there's not many, right?
There's actually none that are housed in Scott County
okay.
right now. We work a lot with Roberts out of Lexington, Candido's. They have a truck posted here, but they're coming.
I'm sorry, are those on our list? Or-
Yes.
Okay.
And
That's how I should have asked.
So none of the ones in Georgetown can do a semi?
A&Z has sold all of their equipment except for one heavy wrecker. So they have a contract with Roberts. If A&Z gets the call on the rotation, they have a Roberts truck coming
Sub
in.
it out.
Finley's has recently purchased a big truck also.
That's what I thought. And then, I thought there was a couple others, because they pulled buses for us.
Well, Phoenix,
I know it might be a-
Sorry, you probably got the
Phoenix has
scoop
a
on some
big
of
truck that, can do the work. They don't want to be on the rotation.
Oh, so
There are a
just
couple,
choose not to be, okay.
yeah, there are a couple of medium duty that, can accomplish what you're talking about.
Gotcha.
Our big thing is, if we've got an overturned semi and we need 3 or 4 big wreckers to lift it back up, we need to be able to provide that in a timely manner.
Well, thank you all for your work, and yes, sir.
So were the trucking companies agreeable to these time frames and such, I mean, 60 minutes seems pretty tight, to me.
I think it's always kind of been standard language, and some of them are pretty good about it. It's like, I can't get there for 40 minutes, and we're like, or 45 or whatever. They'll tell them, I just can't be there for whatever reason, and they'll just kind of
And I'm sure,
give up that.
if they're doing everything in their power to get there, you're not gonna be like, you're off the list.
Yeah.
Correct.
It took you 61 minutes.
I mean,
The ability to take people off the list if it's,
I mean, if they're all on a tow, it's like, but they're next on the list, well, if they're already on a tow, there's no way they can be there. And that's when they say, "Man, I'm on something, it'd be 45 minutes. And that's why we usually they're like, okay, we'll put you at the top of the list the next time. So, there's a rotating list. Just because they turned it down, they don't necessarily get dropped to the bottom because they're business. There's only so many people. So they'll just, okay, we'll go to the next one, then the next come, they're up again.
you're more just annoyed at the people that like just don't answer or don't respond.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sounds like we need to budget a tow truck for J.R. Brandenburg and the Scott County Road Department.
That's what I was.
I'm all.
Yeah, Godfather's Towing.
Is that a motion for the next meeting?
It's new business.
Oh, you talk about, that'd be good.
Aren't you saying some counties do that though?
Yes, some counties do
Like,
that.
you're joking.
And make money.
Oh, I bet. I was sitting there thinking like, man, the road department would be perfect for it. I mean,
Bullitt County has their own storage lot, and they charge fees, or they did. The sheriff's office.
I mean, I'm not even talking about fees, I'm just thinking about response and getting priority things cleaned up, yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you all.
Thank you.
Before Sheriff leaves, I wanted to ask about updating the agreement with the school system for SROs, with adding 3. Could we get with Cam this week and try to get that navigated? It probably.
We started on those contracts, Cam.
For the SROs?
Yeah.
No, but I'm happy to meet with you and work on
I
that.
think what we're gonna do, Jeff, is Jeff here? Jeff, you and Captain Nettles met about this, and we were gonna kind of. Right here. So we're gonna kind of
He'll
go,
give me
we're
that.
gonna kind of go off the contract that we use with the bailiffs, right?
That's what I was just looking at.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're working on that. Did we get all 3 spots filled?
Well, 2 of them for sure, I'm pretty sure. The third one is a if, but I think it'll be fine.
But just having that agreement with the school system updated to show that we're going to have 6. Is that
There's
correct?
something currently in place, Tony, that we just need to update?
Yeah, but we need to update
Okay.
our whatever the
Well, we
agreement
can-
is
yeah,
with
I'll
them.
be happy to get with you later today or next week and
Yeah.
start
Okay.
knocking that out.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you all.
Okay.
Thank you all. Moving on down, I've shared a Commerce Lexington MOU. We've talked about this, had presentations. This is just the actual agreement. We're committing $25,000. City of Georgetown, $25,000. Scott United, $10,000 towards this. Branding, marketing, talent recruitment for regional economic development. I've shared that. Are there any questions related to that? We'll bring that to you next Friday. At Great Crossing Park, we built that 3-bay storage garage, and it is very, very, effective. It's being used, but it's being used so much that we need to build a sidewalk, and we've got an estimate for that. It's approximately $14,000 to build a pad and the sidewalk all the way up to essentially up to the end of where
Driveway.
it's almost like a driveway.
Yeah.
But it just, we don't want to spread gravel out there where you've got concrete sidewalks. Chad, you've seen it.
Yeah.
So I will.
Where's this
at Great Crossing at the 4 Cloverleaf. We built a 3-bay storage garage, and Tim runs back and forth on that gator putting lime and field conditioner and all that. But it just needs to be done.
Rains, it gets muddy.
Yeah, it's a mess. Looking at bylaws for the advisory board reservoir property, I shared that earlier this week. Temple Jewett, the board chair, has worked on that. JR has worked on that, and I think those are very comprehensive. David Livingston had one question. Temple answered it. If one of the board members, and David, can you remind me of that exact question? It was if there was a vacancy, and it was like if it was the chair of the board or the vice chair or any of those positions, the actual advisory board would reappoint that. Whereas if somebody falls off completely off the advisory board, then the actual fiscal court would do that replacement. Is that right?
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
So they would elect their own officers. We would just do the appointment to the boards.
Correct. Any questions about that? We have a draft for a Kentucky Jobs Retention Act resolution, and Cam is, I don't know if I've shared that with you all yet, but it's Kentucky Job Retention Act resolution that Cam and I will share either today or Monday, and you all have met and talked, we've met and talked about it, and we'll have that draft, that resolution, either today or early this week, and we'll bring that up for the court to consider next week. And then also I've shared an all points broadband contract renewal proposal. And I pointed out 2 issues that I think the court needs to look at. Number one is the term. They were asking for 10 more years. And then the other item was, in the previous agreement, they committed to providing wireless internet service to government sites. To my knowledge, that's not anywhere. JR, at one time, didn't you have that and it just didn't work at all for you? Yeah, so now we have the Spectrum Enterprise Fiber at almost all our spots. We're still working to try to get it out there to Sadieville Fire Department. That's a goal that we want soon. An EMS station out there as well. But I need your feedback on what you think we ought to ask for. We do know that they are providing a service to some citizens, but what do we need to ask in return for that lease spot?
So when I talked to Rick about this, I don't want to speak on behalf of Rick, but I did talk to him about these satellites providing services mostly for the folks that he represents. And he felt like that we need to continue to have people can get all points broadband, but he felt like that if they're not providing service for the city, or I'm sorry, for the county government buildings, we should look at possibly charging rent or for tower space. And I have no idea what that value would be. And it might be something on the smaller side to continue to let them provide service. Because if it was a private tower, they would pay them to hook to it. So I think maybe, Judge, we should reduce the amount of lease time, but also look at charging, for all points.
Mike works with our towers quite a bit and AMK
and I agree that there should be some cash value. Verizon reached out to me to ask about the big tower at the EMA building, and to rent space on that would be $4,200 a month.
Times 12.
Right.
Times 5 years.
The reason that we built the tower up at mile 141 Frogtown Tower was because AT&T wanted almost $100,000 a year for us to use their tower across the street, and that was 3 or 4 years ago. So there's value in vertical real estate.
Well, appreciate that information, and that there's value in there, and I appreciate that number.
Can you work on that and bring back a recommendation?
Yeah, no, we'll try to.
Yeah.
And then Legacy Trail Strand and Associates Agreement. This is part of a bid. Strand won the bid. Then it gets vetted by the State Department of Transportation, and I shared that agreement. That is for design consulting on the extension, and the amount there was $192,000 for their services, and that got to us from KYTC, but it has to be approved by this body as well. So wanted to share that and ask if there's any questions related to that. And then my next piece is Jeff Mudrack. Could you share about the upcoming picnic that we're going to have and information there?
Sure. I'm just pleased to remind you about the first annual picnic we're going to hold on August the 4th to recognize people who reached a service milestone. It'll be from 11 to 2 o'clock at the Blue Building at Brookings Park. We'll be recognizing 28 people who are celebrating a service milestone, either a 5, 10, 15, 20, or 25-year milestone. In addition to that, so we'll give them a token of appreciation too, so we've put together something to recognize them for their milestone. Also, we'll be introducing or reintroducing the people we've hired in the last year. We thought it would be good to do that as well. And interestingly enough, we've hired 54 people in the last year. So there'll be several names to go through there. So hopefully what we could do is, as good servant leaders, is go straight from this workshop next month and go to the picnic, and hopefully we'll be able to all work together and actually staff the grills and things.
Yes,
and-
that's what I was going to volunteer us all to flip some burgers.
All right.
I'll wear
so
my apron.
That's a good chance to meet everybody and just a good collegial event, so I'm looking forward to it. I know a lot of the staff are already looking forward to it here, so it should be a good
Appreciate
time.
it very
Just
much.
hope the weather cooperates for us.
Is there any business that
Can I
Matt?
ask Jeff something before you?
Sure, yes.
Real quick. This is off any topic, just a question. I went and gave blood this week at the library, ran into one of our county employees and was talking to her. Do we have any incentive? I mean, I'm sure we let people off work, but do we have any other incentives that it just got me thinking, like, it's such a good thing to do.
Yeah, I mean,
What's that?
If they participate in our wellness program, they get money for that.
Oh, they do?
Yeah.
Okay.
just, they get points towards their goals that they're trying to reach, yeah.
Okay. Well, I just
Good.
started thinking about it, just,
No.
I hadn't really thought about it on our level here before, but it's obviously a really good thing to do, so.
Mhm.
Any,
Can you give us an update on the magisterial districts?
I sure can. The commission has met. The commission has made a recommendation. Amber is on vacation, and so is Tommy Druin. I think the hope was that they could come and make a presentation to the court for your all's consideration. And
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
and you were at
I was
the
their
last meeting.
So I saw, so Tommy, they approved basically the map, and they have a draft report, so they're like finalizing the report basically, and I think their next meeting, I was looking at my calendar here, is the 17th of July, probably to get a final report then to have ready to give to y'all.
And then don't they have to present to the public for so
So
long?
they have to have the report done, I think within 60 days of when they were appointed, which they'll meet that deadline. And then I think you all have 60 days, the court has 60 days to then like decide whether to approve it or, modify it or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Will they send us the map now, or did they?
I assume they'll give you that after the 17th, yeah.
Any other
The report.
Any other business questions?
Can we get, for my edification, can we get like a breakdown and a potential spend ask for all this opioid money? Because it seems like, I know you said we had 292, but we have the Isaiah House, we have net recovery asking.
Isaiah House is not asking for anything.
Just out of our budget.
That's just out of our budget.
But just kind of like the ask.
The net recovery, you heard that request.
EMS.
EMS, and then the other one is the 2 social workers with our schools, with the high school, middle school, focus, and yeah, I can send that.
And then the recovery ready, like what does that cost look like?
0.
Really?
That is just you're checking boxes and making sure that services are available and communications in place. You want to make any other comment? I mean, do you have any other thing you would comment about that? Because you've sat there with me.
That's my understanding, is it's kind of like, let's look at everything holistically that we
It's like a
provide.
survey of
Look
our
at different categories. Are we doing well in all these different categories? And you get a score.
Have you seen the work-ready community signs? It's, it's checking the boxes.
So I don't- yeah.
And it's trying to encourage communities. It's trying to encourage communities to have the standard of services and such. Now, any other questions? Any comment from any of our staff or guests? Any information you all would like to share with the court?
I only have we do have a meeting set up for our exits with the state, Kelly Baker and his team, to look at what we can do to improve the exits.
There's a permitting piece of this, and in most cases, the counties are the ones that are the permittee. And that's the focus of that meeting, so.
Try to figure out, all that background stuff before we.
Yeah, and then try to pull everybody together from the city, the county, and then try to work towards collaboratively to try to make, some plans. Ms. Ray, do you have anything today? You sure?
You
All
almost
right.
got through a whole meeting without even knowing.
All right. JR, any update from roads? Y'all are,
Blacktop for our first one, Hamilton Hickle did, last week, Swords Road was on the list. We're getting started on it.
all right.
Cardinal Drive is rolling.
Yes, it is.
And,
Got a July, end of July deadline.
Wow.
That they say they're gonna meet.
Wow.
end of July.
Pretty soon.
That's pretty soon. Mr. Sutton, I know y'all are over there working on renovations. Any update there?
It's coming along. We are, making progress today. They showed up with some metal on the interior walls and such.
Do you have a goal of, has the cooler been set a date for delivery?
They wanted to put it in last week, but we weren't ready to put some walls yet, so we had to put it out a week. So I'm hoping to be in there within the next 30 to 45 days.
So I've had a request just to share that's related to this is once the coroner's office moves, then that makes that Hamilton Street office available, and Sheriff Hampton and his staff have requested, would it be possible until the new building is completed, could the detectives move there short term, and it just would make things much simpler.
Right now, aren't the detectives?
Over the museum, they spend their nights in the museum. So they're over the second floor of the museum, and so it makes sense to me.
And is our bids due today?
No, I believe the bids for the sheriff's office, and I texted Mike Carroll, and I'll send out a confirmation. I thought they were July 20th. I thought we moved them to the 20th. You got them written down there?
The other one.
We moved EMS to
Bids due.
July 20th.
June 20th bids due.
Well, we
Also changed to July 11th.
July 11th,
Changed to July.
and then EMS is
August 3rd.
August 3rd. So, and from my understanding and conversations, there's been an uptick in people picking up plans.
All right, that's good.
So that's good news. So, good news. Well, if there's nothing else, hey, we finished by 10:14. We finished at 10:14. We will call this meeting to close. Thank you all.
You want me to see you? I don't know where to get to the all.
We already got you evicted, buddy.